A man holding an icicle tells Krua to listen carefully. He mentions how even a worm like her finally has something she can do for the family. We see her back has a mark saying Dielo Arzenta. As the man continues to say she will from now on become the fake pharaoh of the flame house's head. Dielo Arzenta. He tells her to steal that man's first 3 nights and to isolate his position. This will contribute to the prosperity of their water house, the Ologe house. He mentions how if she fails, then all that awaits her will be a miserable death. Our female lead looks down in tears. We later see a carriage carrying her away as she holds her head in anguish. She asks herself what is this? She then stares into the window of the carriage, thinking about these memories, and this appearance she now acquired. She's almost positive that everything is from a novel that she had been reading. She wonders if she's actually been transmigrated, and into Krua Ologe of all people, the illegitimate child from the villainous family. She curses this fact, noting how there was a whole world of people she could have reincarnated as. But why did it have to be Krua? It is said that this story was a 19 dark novel known as the Three Ducal Houses. The novel's main setting revolves around the unique inheritance methods of the 3 ducal families. A mark will appear on the next head of the house, signifying they have the strongest power. In order for them to fully inherit this power, they must spend the first night. Side note, but why are they disrespecting the earth element? Earthbending is top 2 easily. It's a good thing for the author that Toph Beifong hasn't seen this yet. With the destined pharaoh, that has their name magically engraved on their body. However, if a person that isn't their true fated pharaoh takes the first night, they will forever live with only half the inheritance and never become a true head of the family, even if they gain affection for the true pharaoh later on. Our female lead reaches for her back, noting how being a pharaoh is not something you can fake with just a scar. Besides that, Krua ends up dying by the hands of Arzenta once the real pharaoh makes an appearance. Our female lead thinks no, and how there's no way she's gonna die like that. It's already unfair how this possession occurred, so is she just gonna do nothing and die like a dog? There's no way. It's time for her to change the plot, so that she can survive in Arzenata. To do so, there's an action that she must take. She stares forward at the opulent palace with determination. A man greets her saying he is Dielo. He smiles radiantly as she notes how he's actually the only genuinely kind and innocent male lead. She tells him there's something that she'd like to discuss with the Duke in private. Dielo tells the 2 guards to leave them for now then. She calls to His Grace Dielo Arzenta. He responds saying yes with a smile, to which our female lead tells him she's not here to become his bride. The teapot that he was holding started to shake. He then asks her if she's trying to cancel the engagement now, to which she says no and that she's just here to negotiate, at least until his real pharaoh shows up. He seems alarmed by this comment, as Krua says she will serve as his shield and contract wife. She'll make him the strongest head of any household, and in return, she wishes for him to help her get revenge on the Ologe family who discarded her to become his pharaoh. He is speechless at this proposal. He holds up a cup of tea asking if she just now said, "Until the real one comes." She tells him yes, to which his eyes glare. He mentions how he's confirmed his name is engraved on her and yet she's claiming to not be the real one. He does not understand why, but that still means Duke Ologe has tried deceiving him. He mentions how they can no longer just sit here chatting peacefully. She knows this. If it were to be revealed how she's a fake, then the engagement would be broken and there would be justification for starting a war. She stands up saying that she knows. She starts to walk towards a table. He is puzzled by her actions as she then holds up a bottle in front of him. She opens it slowly, as he then notes how it's a healing ointment. She splashes it on her back at that moment. He starts to yell as she then tells him the name Dielo Arzenta was engraved on her back. She starts to loosen her dress, and mention how that name was forcibly branded on her. The mark on her back then starts to slowly fade right before his eyes. He is speechless, as she then asks if this proves she was a fake pharaoh. He stares darkly at the blue bottle on the table. He thinks about how he knew Arzenta was being heavily underestimated, but he did not realize that it was this bad. He then asks her if she thinks Arzenta would let someone who tried to deceive the head walk away scot-free. She says no, and how they would not let her live, but that she has no plans of following Duke Ologe's order. Even if she did, she knows better than anyone that neither side would let her live. Right now, people are saying that the Arzenta head is the weakest, so both Ologe and Cardiel both look down on him. She then reiterates to him, they should get married. Just for 1 year, they will fool both houses until the real pharaoh appears, and once things are better they will destroy Ologe. But in return the Duke has to protect her. This is her proposal. He is silent for a moment, before then asking how he could trust someone like her. Someone who's here on the orders of Duke Ologe. She mentions how she came here alone and with no means to protect herself. In other words, turning this crisis into an opportunity by using her would be the Lord's best decision. He smirks before then saying fine. He then starts to take this coat off, and then wraps it around the female lead. He tells her that they should get married. We see footsteps, and then someone knocking on the door. They are told to come in, and the Duke asks them if they have checked it. The maid tells him that the engravings on the lady's back are definitely fake. It not only reacted with the healing ointment but the mark also has faded. He ponders this in silence for a moment, before recalling how she proposed to marry for a year, to use her until he finds the real pharaoh. She said she'll be the decisive key to keep the other two families off guard. He questions what she means by gaining power, since Arzenta currently has none. It just happened that he would be the one to inherit the family power. She tells him he can stop the other families. He says that's not something even a fellow Arzenta would believe. She mentions to him most Arzentas would have left if he was lacking in power. The Arzenta also have the best intelligence network and that it won't take long to find the real pharaoh. Our female lead reaches her hand out saying that she believes in his potential. He places his pen back into the stand, before then thinking about making a deal with the enemy. He does note how she has a different aura from when he saw her before. Has she been hiding her true self? He recalls a letter telling him to pay 50% of Arzenta mine and farmland income to the Aloge house for Krua, and to allow 100 Aloge knights to be stationed at the Tila Pass between their territories since monsters have been flocking there. The Duke thinks about how the Aloge house not only wants fees but also to manipulate a strategic keypoint. The letter also requested that they let Krua visit home at least once a month as it's saddening to see her go. He thinks about how Aloge called her a pretty daughter, despite sending her into enemy territory as a disposable pawn. He starts to write his own letter as a response. He then calls PL and the maid says yes. He tells her to personally serve the lady who will become Duchess, to give Aloge everything that they want. Later someone comments about how a building is being constructed for the wedding and how it will be the most extravagant ceremony. PL tells Krua that she will be the most radiant, and how it's been a while since the three houses were involved in a wedding. Krua then tells PL that all the families and the Imperial One likely think her and Diello are getting married after a sweet romance. She asks PL if that's right, to which the maid smiles in silence. Our female lead notes how this is the head maid, a leading figure with a guiding influence. She is the one that disposes of those who get in Arzenta's way. A cleaner if you will. Our female lead recalls only reading half for the original novel, but she does recall how PL was the one who liquidated the original Krua when it was revealed she was a fake. Our female lead notes how her deal with the Duke is a secret but that PL might know it. She's trying to make this clear out loud right now. She then calls to the maid, and asks if the Duke himself assigned PL to serve her. PL says of course, and that he ordered her to assist Krua with her wedding and beyond. Our female lead then notes how Diello did tell the maid, and how PL's likely also acting as a guard. Krua says she will be in PL's care then as PL says she'll be in Krua's care as well. Krua notes how the maid is still wary despite acting all friendly. She's not planning to deceive the maid but it still makes her nervous. Her head then turns to gaze out the window. She questions if that is the infinite sea. PL says yes and asks if Krua has seen it before. It is said that the infinite sea is guarded by the flame family. Aloge, the water family, protects the endless forest. Cardiel, the wind family protects the desolate desert. These defensive zones are divided by an ancient oath. The maid then asks what Krua thinks about the view. As she stares out the window into the breeze, our female lead calls it beautiful. A beautiful blue sea as fair as the eye can see. The maid then mentions how she heard the Aloge people were sick of water, but that seems to not be the case. Krua asks why she would be sick of water when she can control it. She then recalls something. The Aloge can control water, but in the novel, Krua was barely able to use her powers. She notes how that glass is full so she can use it to test. The water then jumps out of the cup. To her shock, she wonders what that was. She then puts her hand closer to the cup, before then waterbending to make a whale-shaped figure with the wine. She then successfully maneuvers it all back into the glass. Our female lead notes how her ability to control water is far more natural than described in the novel. In fact it's more than that. It's almost as easy as breathing for her. The maid then mentions how it's time to head to the banquet hall. She tells the maid she understands. We later see her walking down the hallway, and thinking about how this marriage will shake up the whole empire. She holds onto her veil, and thinks about making sure the Aloge Duke does not suspect a thing. She needs to act like a sweet couple that is madly in love. It is said that this empire's proposal custom is unique. The bride must first wear a veil to cover her face. We see our female lead greet the Duke, as he turns and calls to her. As she approaches him, she mentions to him how they have to look like a sweet, loving engaged couple today. She asks how confident he is that he can play the part. He scratches the side of his face nervously. She recalls how this reaction is just like how the novel described. He's a pure and kind man that cannot tell a lie. He was always flustered with Krua's unruly behavior and was busy chasing her. She thinks about how today must not be like that. If she cannot handle her own husband, then Duke Aloge will scold her. She decides it can't be helped then. She then turns and tells him to promise her one thing. She will take the lead, so just follow her. The second proposal custom is that the bride-to-be does not enter with the groom. We later hear an announcer presenting Lady Krua of the Duke Aloge family. People murmur about how surprising it is the two houses have joined for marriage. As our female lead walks by, she notes angrily how she can hear every word. People wonder how the Cardial house feels as someone mentions how Siete is the head of that house, and there should not be any problems. She thinks about the Cardial of the Wind. Thanks to Siete, one of the top 5 most powerful heads in history, they are currently having a golden age. The stronger head leads to stronger knights under their banner, so monsters don't even dare approach their land. Yet now, 2 of the ducal houses are joined under marriage. Cartier's standing is now uncertain and their concern is valid. Someone then yells and announces the arrival of Duke Arzenta. Diello. He walks into the room with a smile, as all the ladies in the room say my goodness. They mention how the Duke of Arzenta has grown up so remarkably well. He then starts to walk towards the purple-haired female lead. He calls to Krua as she says yes with a smile under her veil. This is the third proposal custom. He reaches for her veil, as it is mentioned how the only one allowed to lift it is her future husband. He then puts his head under the veil and stares right at her. She thinks about how this is all staged, but that her heart is starting to beat very fast right now. He starts to blush as well, as he tells her to please become his bride. He leans in closer towards her, and then gives her a Bluetooth kiss. He then moves back, as she then says the name Diello. He mentions how she does not have feelings for him, so it'd be a problem if he were to take her first kiss. She then reaches for his shoulder. She tells him to not think like that. She tells him she is okay with it. So, she then reaches for his back, and tells him more deeply. And the two then share a real kiss under the veil. Everyone in the room watches and says oh my. She tells him to try loving her. And more than now. He stands in silence, before then making an abrupt move. He swoops in for another kiss. As the pair continue to perform for the crowd, they all watch the couple in silence. As we later see the female lead blushing, he asks her if she meant like that. She tells him he agreed to follow her lead, so do as she wants. She tells him to be more bold as they get closer. She tells him more as they continue. They then share yet another kiss. Is the fourth custom to put on a show for everyone? Reminds me of a high school hallway. Wow. Everyone in the room continues to watch in awe. They wonder how the two families who could be enemies for so long are doing this. They also mention how the social circle's top couple title is now changing. It is said that one can never truly know what will happen in life. People mention how the pair look absolutely stunning. Later it is dusk as the Duke stares out the window. Someone then calls to his grace. He says to come in as a man mentions the social circles are in uproar as he expected. The Duke says it's thanks to the lady being so forward. To which the man says Krua made headlines too, but that most of the chatter is about him. He had shown a side of himself that was unlike his usual reputation. He thinks about how that's the reaction he'd expect, as they all remember him as that timid little boy. He mentions how they seem to have seen him and the lady in good light today. The man says no doubt and that everyone thinks they are a loving couple. The Duke says the more rumors the better and tells Cassius to keep fanning the flames. He says yes and that he will relay this to Arzenta. After he exits the room, we see the Duke ponder about things. He puts his hand on his lips and notes what she said to him before. The comment about being deeper in love, and for him to try loving her. His eyes go blank, as he recalls her lips, and how they held one another close together. When his finger touched her lips, he thinks about Krua Aloge, and then has a smile on his face. It turns out he was not the only one pretending. The Krua he had seen until now was nothing but a facade. Her true self was when she asks to lead and for him to follow. He thinks about the fact that she revealed her true self to him, and how she staked everything on this path. It's either they do this, or they don't. We later see maids chattering and even men on the street. Someone mentions how strange it is for the servants to be this excited. It's all just because the master is getting married. Krua mentions how they are strangely cheerful to PL. But she does note how they don't realize how vicious she can be. She then says out loud she doesn't mind everyone being happy. The news of their engagement spread quickly through frontline Arzenta. It's a title given to those who are deeply bound to Arzenta and would never betray. This means that everyone tied to the house has already heard the news. PL mentions how there are high expectations now due to the image the pair presented. Krua asks if it's due to them looking like a very sweet newlywed couple. PL says that's exactly right. Krua then asks what PL thought about the whole thing. Our female lead notes how it all looked like the perfect scene to those who don't know the truth. Yet they also need to know how it looked to those that did know. After all, it's not just the nobles of high society that needs to be fooled. Duke Aloge as well. Krua says she wants to know how the engagement ceremony looked to someone who knows the truth. PL says it was excellent, and how she almost fell for it herself. Our female lead notes how the maid does not look like she's lying and how it's a success. Someone then runs into the room and yells that it is an emergency. Zone 3 of the Infinite Sea has been breached. /. As our female lead gets dressed, she asks what is going on. PL says that she will find out immediately. The door then opens as people are waiting outside. PL asks another what the situation is. Our female lead wonders if PL anticipated something like this. The other maid mentions how the defense line of the Infinite Sea has collapsed, to which PL asks if it collapsed completely. The other maid says not completely as she then turns to look at Krua. Our female lead crosses her hand noting how despite this being a contract marriage, she is still the mistress of the house, and that there's no need to step aside. Two groups of monsters are attacking Sector 3 and that the first group was far larger than usual. Commander Roa is on site and moved to counter the larger force. But the second group that followed was also overwhelming in numbers and the defense line was broken almost instantly. PL mentions how it seems the number of monsters far exceeded the number of deployed troops. The other maid says yes and how multiple monster groups seem to have joined forces. Our female lead then remembers something like this from a part of the novel. She thinks about the monster moving suspiciously before noting how she can't recall a detailed explanation on it. But how does a servant know this much about the battlefield and maids aren't usually given a report? And it seems like every knight and servant are saying the same thing. PL mentions how the final line of defense seems to have held and asks how that was managed and if reinforcements arrived. The other maid says Sinner Roa charged straight into the horde of monsters and that while he was going berserk they rebuilt the defense line and are awaiting reinforcements. Krua notes how the maid said Sinner. PL tells the maid to make sure an emergency report is being written. Krua continues to wonder why they called him a sinner. She mentions to them how he sacrificed himself to fulfill his duties. And instead of honoring him they talk about how this was expected of him. PL says he failed to do his job properly. If he did not buy time by throwing himself in, then he'd be more severely punished by the Arzenta Code. PL mentions how Krua must not have seen such a thing while at a lodge. She mentions how Krua asked why he's a sinner. In Arzenta, there is an absolute code of conduct. One either does it or they don't. Our female lead recalls seeing such words before. It was the first line that described Arzenta in the novel. Do it, or don't. If one does not do their job properly, then it is natural to give your life. And even if you do, then you're still a sinner. Those who swear loyalty to the family head are granted access to family powers, and that power varies depending on the head's capabilities. Diello will possess the strongest power in Arzenta's history, and even without his familiar, his strength will be overwhelming. This is likely why someone like Roa was able to go berserk using Arzenta's power and stop such a large number of monsters. Krua mentions how even if Roa gave his life to stop monsters, if he did not complete the job, then that'd be the same as not doing it at all, correct? PL smiles saying that Krua adapts quickly. Our female lead then notes how Diello's act of appearing weak is intentional and to prepare for the future. It must also be influenced by the ruthless traditions of the Arzenta. Maybe it is a bit harder for him due to his kind nature. A lot of words are being said that we cannot hear. The report concludes by saying that Roa went berserk and died using Arzenta's power. Diello asks what happened to the body, to which someone says it's in a condition that cannot be recovered. He tells the man to bury it in front of the Infinite Sea. The man then mentions how Krua has received this news. She questioned why they call Roa a sinner. Or she seemed rather surprised by the fact. The Duke says he understands and that will be all. After the aide leaves, Diello leans back in his chair. He mentions how they'll be needing a new commander for Sector 3 now. He then puts his hands on his mouth, and then starts to burst out laughing. He wonders what he should do with his bride. We later see her alone looking out the window. She thinks about how the wedding is right around the corner, so how did it get to this point? Someone then asks if they can come in. She lets PL in, as the maid asks if Krua finished all the refreshments. Our female lead then asks what that is, as PL rolls in a cart. PL says these are the business documents that are managed by Arzenta and that it will take some time to go through everything. She nervously says that someone staying here temporarily should probably not know such deep internal affairs about the house. PL insists though that Krua must know. PL mentions how the lady in each house must not only gather information from social circles, but also manage public image and oversee internal affairs. Lady Krua Aloge must fully understand all the businesses Arzenta is involved in so she can fulfill her duty as the lady of the house. Our female lead notes how this probably included underground dealings as well, and how they're willing to share all secret and shady operations. She asks if it is okay for PL to be teaching her all this. The maid says it's the master's will. Our female lead anguishes as she wonders if Diello forgot that she's a fake, and that she will be stepping down once the real pharaoh arrives. She then wonders why he is so kind and just how much he trusts her. She then asks if PL is against this, and says she agrees with the Duke. She then says they will start with the Southern Business Division as Krua yells to wait. We later see a crowd of people moving about. People mention how the building was made just for the marriage and comment on how extravagant this ceremony will be. It will likely be a historic event. We see the Duke getting help to dress by the maids. Someone then calls to Sir Diello. It is Duke Aloge who says that everything seems to be going well. He tells Diello to please take care of his daughter and that she may have shortcomings. Diello says of course. Aloge mentions how since the marriage ties them together, they should put old grudges to rest and ask that Diello cherish his daughter as his wife. Diello says there is nothing to worry about. Aloge then says see you later while walking out. We later see Duke Diello in silence and fuming with rage. Someone yells it's about to begin and how they can't wait to see the couple. They then mention how Aloge is arriving. Aloge walks in with a bunch of children. People tell his grace, congratulations, and call this a blessed occasion. He appreciates the warm words but asks to be excused for a moment. He then starts to move his hands. And people then notice the water starts to shift. It is truly fitting for a water house like the Aloges. People then start at the water and mention how the little flames reflect off the canal and make the sight stunning. Everything seems to be ready for the bride and groom. It is then announced how they will make their entrance. Diello steps out, before we then see the sight of Krua as well. She starts to walk towards him at the altar. They stand before one another, as Krua stares in silence at her family. Her dad looks at her with a menacing appearance. She thinks about how his expression tells her the plan with Diello is still undiscovered. She then sees that the groom's family seats are all empty. Just like in the original story, Duke Aloge had been involved. She thinks about Diello, and wonders if he knew her father was the culprit. He looks back at her with a puzzled look on his face. She thinks about how he probably doesn't and how if he did there's no way he'd marry the daughter of the person who did it. She pities him and notes how when the time comes, she'll help him eradicate Aloge. A man then says that they will now commence the wedding ceremony. After a while the man says that with this, the two are now bound as one for eternity. As husband and wife they may now seal the vows with a kiss. Water flows over the pair as they stare at one another. The Duke then takes a bow. He holds her hand as she wonders what that is. She notes how the crest of House Arzenta that's been hidden until now. It's something that suppresses the awakening of an heir's powers. If the true pharaoh removes this lily then the heir's power will surge. But if someone other than the pharaoh is involved, then the power will never blossom. Her and Diello must protect this secret at all costs. He calls her his lovely bride, and then shares another kiss with her. He asks if this should look a little sweeter. She smiles and saves of course. She then tells him to let her lead this time then. Everyone starts to stare at the couple. They move closer to one another. As the Duke then thanks Krua for marrying him. Everyone then lets out a cheer as the couple embrace one another. She thinks about how Diello today, they had a complete success. The two then approach a carriage. As Diello says they will be heading out now. Aloge wishes them a happy honeymoon. They get into the carriage and leave, while Aloge also plans to leave. Inside the carriage, Diello remarks to Krua that it seems like the marriage was a complete success. And now all they need to protect is his chastity, which makes him a bit embarrassed. But the girl only holds his hand even tighter that night. Today, she is quietly admiring the scenery and realizing that Arzenta must have a lot of money, as they built an entire building just for the wedding and even prepared a villa nearby for the honeymoon. Diello asks her if she likes it, and she replies that it's amazing. He adds that if she looks at it from the upper floor, she'll like it even more. She hugs him, saying that in that case, she wants to go and see it right away. They are all lovey-dovey while the maid silently watches them. The scenery of the sea and the forest together is breathtaking. It's the border between Arzenta and Aloge. Diello says to her that they will enjoy a quiet breakfast here tomorrow. The maids look at each other and then inform Krua that her package has already been unpacked. Among the people staying here with them, there are also some aides from the Aloge family, and their goal is to observe them during their 3-day stay. Diello asks her if she would like to unpack first and then explore the estate. She agrees that it sounds fun. Inside the room, she feels drained after the long, flashy day filled with maids. She mutters that this place was made so great, almost like a luxury spa, and even he didn't expect they would win this much. He jokingly says the drink wasn't sent for them just to admire, it was meant to be enjoyed, so they should drink it. She agrees, saying of course. After all, until the real pharaoh arrives, they'll do their best. She drinks it after raising her glass, and the taste is really sweet and fragrant. They drink all night. She asks for another drink, but Diello smiles and tells her that what they had was the last one. They both start to laugh like silly children. He stands up, saying they need to clean up now, and asks her to come with him. In the end, they both lie on the bed, while Krua thinks to herself that the real pharaoh will arrive in 2 months. She knows that if she had given him a specific date, it would have seemed too suspicious. That's why she vaguely said the contract would be for 1 year. But in reality, in just 2 months, she will have to leave this place. She gently caresses his face, which makes him ask if his eyes look strange. She smiles, thinking his eyes are beautiful like the sea. She wonders if she is even allowed to say this, since they are not a real couple. But he replies that the real sea is much deeper than his eyes and a completely different color. However, she thinks that from far away, they look like the same color. He agrees. She is also enjoying this newlywed life full of calm and peace. He says to her, calling her my lady, that he is glad. But she scoffs and says she's not his lady anymore. If they want to be seen as a great couple, they'll have to act closer, and he should call her by her name. He calls her Krua Aloge, but she corrects him, saying he should just call her Krua. This time, he says her name properly. She then adds that she won't actually be taking away his chastity, but to fool the maids, they will have to spend nights like this more often. He answers with a playful, of course, ma'am. She also has a favor to ask him. She whispers it to him, which makes him a bit worked up, asking if she's sure. She confirms that she is. After all, this is something she needs to do. She reminds herself that she is Arzenta. There's a saying, do it or don't, but if she's going to do it, she wants to do it properly. He says okay, and then she gets on top of him. The next day, Krua sits in the garden enjoying her tea. The maid informs her that this is a brewed herbal tea that should help with her fatigue. Krua asks her to send some to Diello as well, who is currently working in his office. She's glad that today, the Aloge Miss are finally going back. Now she'll be able to breathe and relax. Just a little more patience. She's already there. But then, she notices a child crying. She tries to approach him, but the maid steps forward, reminding her that she isn't someone the child can approach so easily. However, the little boy begs her to help him. The maid turns to Krua and asks what they should do. Krua allows the boy to come to her. She asks him gently what's wrong. Crying, he tells her that his mommy is gone and that they had come here together. Krua turns to the maid and asks if there's any guest or maid in Arzenta who arrived with a child. The maid replies that no one did. Hearing this, the little Lif starts crying even harder. Krua consoles the small kid, telling him not to cry. She then tells the maid that she will go and help him. She can't leave him just like that. The maid is worried for Krua's safety, but Krua assures her that she trusts both Arzenta and Aloge. Deep down, she knows that no one here would harm her. Still, she asks her maid not to tell anyone about this, as she doesn't want to cause any unnecessary worry. She asks PL, the maid, to cover for her and assures her that after all, what could a little child possibly do wrong? PL nods that she understands, but just in case, says that she'll follow her quietly. But the kid starts crying even louder. Krua comments that it seems like the kid doesn't like PL, so she'll go alone. The two leave together, and the child's expression changes into something cold. He silently points her toward a dark alley. Krua asks him if he has already found his mom. She already knows this boy hasn't shown any panic despite the tight security. It's suspicious. That's why he clung only to her. There's a good chance that this child might intend harm. She doesn't particularly have the appetite to deal with something like this today, but it's already too late. PL is probably already following from a distance. The lift reaches the alley and opens a secret panel. A boy stands there waiting for her. As she expected, he's a spy from Aloge. He asks Krua if she spent the night with Diello. She replies that she did. The boy then demands proof, but she's like, how exactly is she supposed to give evidence of that? He insists she show him anything that could prove it. Maybe even the porridge they shared or something from the night. She unbuttons the top of her shirt slightly, thinking to herself that she's glad she asked Diello for this yesterday. She shows him the hickey on her skin and asks if that's enough. The boy nods, clearly satisfied with the confirmation. Just then, a maid arrives, calling the boy by name. He quickly runs to her. Krua sighs. This was what she expected. They would come to confirm the information. But she didn't expect them to send someone so young and suspicious in the first place. In the original novel, the story focused on Krua, who was determined to deceive Diello by spending the night with him. Just maybe, she thought, he might leave a good hickey on her. She asks herself if the mission is now clear. She says that it is. Still, she doesn't know why she's suddenly thinking about last night, but just the thought makes her blush. Why is he so good at that? Now, Diello is looking out and notices Krua, who clearly isn't having the time of her life. He recalls what she told him the last time, how she felt it was important to always be prepared for any situation. But what lingers more in his mind is the question of how she even knew that Aloge would send someone to check on them. He wonders if it's because she knew her father's nature all too well, or if it's simply because, deep down, she is still someone of Aloge. The fence of Arzenta comes to mind. If Arzenta is cold outside the fence, then within it, the same structure becomes an unyielding and towering wall, yet also a reliable shield and support. But Krua, he still can't trust her completely. He wonders if releasing her inside the Arzenta fence is the right move. If she truly remains someone of a Loge, then she will deceive them. But if she has genuinely chosen to join hands with Arzenta, he sincerely hopes her contract is a true one. Later that night, Krua is deep in thought. She feels like aiming for proof is simply too much. On top of that, she's confused about what kind of proof they were even asking for, and to make matters worse, they had the nerve to show up in the form of a child. At that moment, Diello also enters. She can't believe that even now, he's being this cautious about entering the honeymoon room. He apologizes for not being able to be with her during the day, and that he had to go to the main estate because some work needed to be done. She assures him that it's all good, that it's okay. She admits that she really doesn't know much about Arzenta affairs. She must have looked completely stupid in that office. Still, she went to look at the office several times, like a longing wife peeking into her husband's workplace, wondering when he's going to come down. He was right there, yet he didn't come. He must have seemed like a bad husband. But then she sighs. At least her father must be thinking that they've got good chemistry. She then tells Diello that her father checked the traces from yesterday night. Diello is surprised. He thought he had done that himself. Krua calms him down. Her father didn't do it directly. He sent someone to check it. Diello apologizes for misunderstanding, but Krua brushes it off. Who cares? After all, he's still their enemy. But thanks to that, they've gotten over their first crisis. She brings up the lily crest again, saying her father must be worried, hoping she'll remove that crest. But the emblem only fades as Diello continues to give sincerity and purity to his marriage partner. Right now, it is completely vivid, and it won't fade anytime soon, not until the real pheromone arrives. She assures him that until the real pheromone arrives, it will remain the same. But there's still one more thing they need to clarify, and that is, exactly who else knows about their secret in Arzenta. She is sure that PL knows. This makes Diello uncomfortable. She points out that it's not just that. She won't recognize even those who do know. Diello agrees it's true. PL knows about all of this. She asks him to tell her who, from among the people in Arzenta, she can believe in. Diello says not to be so anxious. Anyone who comes and goes from the 4th floor, she can trust them. But Krua frowns at that. Doesn't that mean all the Arzenta people come to the 4th floor? So, Diello laughs and admits that's right, so she doesn't need to worry. Krua is deeply concerned. How can someone be this naive? Diello adds that especially, anyone who uses their ability and operates from the 4th floor can be trusted. They are all Arzenta, and a true Arzenta knows that betrayal is a foolish act, but she shakes her head. Just because someone knows betrayal is foolish, doesn't mean they won't do it. He understands her concern but assures her again. Once she gets to know the people of Arzenta, she'll understand it herself. They then say goodnight to each other. The next day, PL gives her a contract for one of the Dragon Era who will be transferred to another house starting today. It's a magical contract meant to ensure they do not reveal any house secrets. Krua thinks that a contract bearing the gaming head's name must be important. She wonders if she is really in a position to view something like this after all. She herself is in a contract marriage. PL adds that the signee is currently waiting and asks if Krua would like to let them in. Krua asks her to give her some time. She reads the contract, which states that if anyone attempts to disclose the family's secrets, the Arzenta flames will burn them and everyone around them. She asks PL if this kind of contract is common. PL replies that it isn't common, but it happens from time to time. And of course, they have rarely seen anyone breaking the contract. Krua can tell it must be an Arzenta tradition. But she feels uneasy. Diello, who has such a caring nature, would he really burn someone? To her, it feels unfamiliar. Still, she listens to them. PL leads the way. They reach the designated place. The gates open, and a man named Mirda greets her. She immediately recognizes him. This is the guy who's going to sign the contract. There's a feather pen and a dagger, but there is no ink. PL then asks Mirda if he knows how to sign the contract. Mirda takes the dagger and, without hesitation, makes a cut on his hand. As expected, the contract is being signed with blood. Krua watches with a flicker of worry. Surely that must hurt. But Mirda calmly tells them that he's done. PL solemnly states that she hoped it wouldn't come to this, but if he ever breaks the vow, he will be returned to this place and turned to ashes. She reminds him to remember his vow. Mirda responds respectfully, saying he knows his vow. Then, turning to Krua, he thanks her for witnessing it, saying it was an honor to have served her, even if only briefly. Krua asks if he's leaving for Arzenta. He tells her that his wife's parents are there and she wishes to be with them before they pass. She sincerely hopes that he only gets to hear good things going forward. Mirda takes his leave. Once the carriage disappears from view, PL tells Krua that she'll return shortly after making sure the carriage departs safely. Krua is left alone, reflecting. It feels to her like this was an internal affair of Arzenta, and for some reason, it unsettles her like she's interfered in something she shouldn't have. She wonders if Diello is really so confident that these people won't betray him just because of some contract. But then again, what is this family? PL later tells Krua that Mirda once served the former Duchess. That makes Krua think, what if he had served Diello himself? In that case, surely he would have grown attached to him, and it must have been incredibly difficult for Diello to order him to sign such a contract. Suddenly, PL's voice comes from outside. She says she has brought Mirda's contract, but Krua realizes that it's her responsibility to hand it over. She walks out and delivers the contract personally. Diello is visibly shocked to see her there. He hadn't expected it. He's surprised that she got it done herself. He thanks her. Krua also notices that he holds the dagger in his hand. He takes it and, without hesitation, cuts his hand to sign the contract himself. She can see the contract sealing before her eyes. Then, as if unable to hold back, she brings up something she heard, that Mirda once served Diello as well. Diello admits it's true. It's unfortunate, but still, his concern remains. Krua gently tells him that betrayal is not the way, and he needs to be confident that he will succeed. Since Mirda served him before, there shouldn't be any problems. Diello agrees. Then, in a rare show of affection, he kisses her hand in gratitude for comforting him. He gazes into her eyes with soft admiration, telling her he'll wait for her at night. To Krua, it finally starts to feel like they really are newlyweds. She quietly takes her leave, allowing him to return to his work. Diello then turns his gaze back to the contract. He calls for Rick. The man appears, asking if he should have them followed. Diello replies yes, follow Mirda, but then pauses. He corrects himself, telling Rick to follow those who were swayed by Cardiel. Arzenta will be under close watch for a while now, and he wants Rick to report immediately if they try to contact Cardiel. Diello is going to handle it himself. Rick leaves. Now that the head of intelligence has been dispatched, Mirda's every move will be monitored under Arzenta's scrutiny. Diello scoffs at Krua's words. She's right. People don't attempt betrayal with real certainty, they do it with baseless confidence. This current situation, with him in a contract marriage to a fake pharaoh, is the perfect opportunity to weed out internal traitors. Those who have deemed them unstable will be exposed. And in Arzenta, the law does not forgive traitors. Just then, a knight arrives, informing him that there's unusual movement in Sector 4 of the Infinite Sea, and that Field Commander Radiance is requesting Diello's presence. Diello confirms his uncle, himself. He immediately sends the knight to guide him there. This news is also relayed to Krua. She wonders if Diello is now preoccupied with the possibility of a larger-scale attack. Diello may appear frail on the outside, but he was born into a family of great power. Still, despite all this, she can't shake off the real, sinking feeling that something is terribly wrong. She asks PL if Diello really left without any notice. PL tries to explain that he did, but it was due to an emergency. Krua hopes he'll return home safely. She had really thought that the two of them might share some quiet time together later. As she's walking, she suddenly comes across a shadow target paper and asks PL what it is now. PL explains that the paper lists the people who supply things to them and that one of them died while carrying out a mission for Azentra. This particular shadow family belongs to the criminal Roa, yet Diello still made an exception for them. Roa was the knight who once sacrificed himself to protect the 4th district of the Infinite Sea. The last time she thought they were being cruel to him, but now she thinks there might be more to the story. She asks what exactly the families supported by the Shadow program receive. PL answers that they are not only given permanent residence in Azentra with fully built housing, but they are also completely supported for the rest of their lives. That is why the loyalty of Azentra's people tends to be so strong. Krua scoffs that it sounds rather amazing and that it might actually be fun to become part of Azentra. She then asks what the requirements are to become a part of Azentra. PL replies that it's usually the manifestation of the fire element. However, she has heard that some families' retainers wield other elements as well. Krua wonders if that includes those from the Aloge household. She says that people who can control water usually live in the Duke Aloge mansion, but the atmosphere there is a bit different. First of all, it's not like people can't work at the manor just because they don't have powers. And second, she has never heard of any magical contracts like the one Mirda signed, nor any kind of support like the Shadow program. She does, however, like the sound of the Shadow program. Most people around her agree that might be why the atmosphere in Azentra feels so different from everywhere else. Then, they suddenly hear frantic knocking. Confused, she wonders what's happened. A knight rushes to her, huffing, and reports that the 4th district is requesting more reinforcements. She's immediately alarmed. Diello might already be there and yet they're still asking for more troops. The knight explains that it was Diello himself who submitted the request. She gets a strange sense of déjà vu. This situation is too similar to what happened in the original timeline. That time, Diello's only uncle, Radiance, had died from going berserk, and now Diello and Azentra face another crisis. This moment, too, happened shortly after Kura married Diello in the original novel, just before the real heroine arrived at the manor. She asks the knight how much blood has been shed. He replies that the battle is taking longer than expected, which is why Diello requested the elite troops to be dispatched quickly. PL is relieved, saying that it will be fine. But Kura knows they don't understand the situation is about to spiral out of control. The reason even seasoned Commander Radiance failed was because, in all of Azentra's history, they never predicted that the monster would use a maid's pathway to appear. That's why Radiance had no choice but to burn himself alive and go berserk. The 4th district was protected, yes, but at the cost of his life. If she leaves everything to follow the novel's original plot, Radiance will die. And Radiance is not just Diello's only remaining blood relative, he's also a key figure in Azentra's military. She can't let him die like this. She's not acting on a whim. She's doing this to secure her own future. She tells them to summon the elite troops immediately and to send a group as large as possible. She's the only one who knows about the water monster, and though she nearly blurts out something dangerous, she quickly corrects herself, saying that, rather than her, the knight should decide the army's composition. She also asks him to assign someone to guard her, both a knight and PL. They are confused, but Kura insists that it's a waterside area, and since Seuss is from a lodge, if even Diello's presence isn't enough, then the situation might be far more serious than they think. Since it's a waterside battlefield, someone with water control should go there. They agree and tell her they'll report everything right away after the meeting. For the sake of Azentra, for Diello, and for her own future, she must prevent this tragedy. Meanwhile, at the seaside, the monster has already emerged. Diello despises the sky the most. From afar, it sparks endlessly, yet the creatures that come crawling out of it always threaten the people on the land. And every time, the people of Azentra must make sacrifices to protect themselves from it. He hates it to the point of madness. We see a lost setting. Diello is crying. Radiance comes, calling him. Diello apologizes to him. He says that it was the stars because of the things that crawled out of them. Radiance tells him to wipe his tears, reminding him that there are many who wish to see him crumble. He must stay strong. From now on, he must grow used to losses and never place his trust in anyone too easily. He should stop looking at himself as the one watching over all of Azentra, because to survive, he must harden his heart. But Diello cannot stop crying. And then, he hugs him. Now, back to the present, he thinks that it feels like he is thinking of him today more than usual. Perhaps, he is heading to the place of his area. But he really has a bad feeling about this already, though he begs for it to be just a feeling. That we see that the knights are fighting at full force with the sea monster. The monster throws his sword away, making this knight think that this is the end of him. But just as the monster is about to attack, Diello arrives just in time, killing all the monsters. All the knights are filled with joy at the sight of him. Radiance is glad to see him too. Diello orders them not to take a single step back. They will burn the entire place down. They see that the monsters are retreating, making them feel hope. But then they see a shadow. The knight becomes wary. This is the monster that can control the water, and it is several times more powerful. Diello throws the flames toward it, but the flames are unable to reach it. And with this much distance, he cannot break the barrier. So it is true, monsters capable of using fire magic have shown up in the desert, protected by Cardiel, the one who commands the wind. The head of the house Cardiel, who had awakened as a pharaoh, reportedly took it down in one blow. But since Diello hasn't awakened as the pharaoh, all he can do is barely hold the line. Even though he has sent the request for troops, they won't be of much help. Radiance says that he will suppress them by entering a rampage. He adds that it was his mistake to underestimate this and to ask for only a small force. Diello thinks that if Radiance truly plans to go berserk, they might be able to stop these casualties. But then these words will become his favorite maledictions. Radiance asks for his permission, but before Diello can say anything, he hears Kura calling his name. She is with the army. He is shocked to see her here. The monster tries to attack her, but with her water power, she is able to hold it. Seuss shouts to Diello that she will handle the sea. He looks at her with all softness in his eyes and hands. He thinks at first that it was a trick of the mist that made it look cool, but then he notices that it's Kura who's controlling it. That makes it even more impressive. She was able to kill the monster. Everyone there is shocked. She had known that power tends to grow stronger near its source, but even with that knowledge, this much strength amazes her. Before her departure, she had been testing her abilities. The more she uses her power, the easier it becomes for her to manipulate it. She can now shape it exactly as she imagines. In the original Kura, Her powers were weakened, but this is not like before. With her, there is no other explanation, and it seems like her reincarnation also heightens the intensity of her powers. The knight does not tell her that the departure preparations are already complete. She gives the order to gather them all. Just as expected, showing up in person paid off. They were able to get a lot of smet, and she orders all units to advance and rush toward Sector 4. Surprisingly, she was also able to ride the horse well. It seems the original Kura was not only experienced but also naturally talented. They are about to reach the place for the sake of what lies ahead. They really need to win this battle. She really isn't just any ordinary girl. How much of a help she will be the closer she gets to the sea, the more the Eloge blood in her rises. Now back to the present. The knights are all amazed that she was born to handle such a massive tide. They are shocked. Why is she so powerful? After all, she is not even the daughter of the head family, so just how much Duke Eloge must have had in power? Diello is also in shock, seeing her like this. He is told that the monster has disappeared, but that is not the case. It was only hiding, and the tide is growing stronger. But Kura sees it. They were hiding behind the tide, but hiding will not help them now. It is useless. She moves away all the waves. The monster appears. Kura sees this as her chance. Their best option is to pour power onto this monster since it can control water. Taking it down in one hit will be much harder, so she will just have to use more power. Diello finally calls her. He comes forward and throws his flames at the monster, destroying it completely. All the knights start to cheer while he announces that the water-controlling monster has been defeated and that they must now secure the battlefield. Kura is impressed to see this much power from him even before it has fully bloomed. Of course, he is amazing, but just at that moment she loses consciousness. Diello catches her, calling her name desperately. He asks her if she is really alright, and why she even came here. She chuckles, saying that she couldn't let her partner in crime get hurt. He thanks her for helping them. She had thought that with his personality, he would be bad at fighting, but maybe he is not the man she thought he was. Kura is the first to drift off to sleep, while Diello sits quietly beside her, gently caressing her hair. As he watches her breathe softly, his mind slips back to the battlefield. Radiance soon arrives, informing him that the area is being cleared. Diello responds curtly, saying only that they should now depart. Radiance offers to escort Kura, but Diello declines, insisting he will take her himself, directly, on his horse. As they ride together, his thoughts swirl. A strange scene lingers in his memory, a silence pressing heavily against his body, a scent in the air that he has always loathed. The salty tang of the sea, once unbearable to him, now feels oddly comforting, like a sweet dew that quenches his thirst. He hushes her gently, calling her name. And now, returning to the present, he whispers thanks to her. After witnessing the deaths of countless Azentra soldiers and even his own parents, Diello had long resolved never to form special attachments. He trained himself to be ruthless, to remain unshaken in the face of any death. However, if there truly is someone who can pull him out of that sea of death and help him face it bravely, then perhaps, just perhaps, he will allow himself to be attached. The next day, Kura slowly opens her eyes, staring up at a familiar ceiling. She doesn't even have the strength to move a single finger. Her mouth is parched, as though every drop of moisture in her body has burned away and drained out. They say that of the 3 types of tenzels, those who use their power suffer different symptoms. These, it seems, are hers. A maid enters and is visibly relieved to see Kura awake. She announces that she will go fetch the doctor immediately, but Kura firmly stops her, saying she doesn't need it just yet. She instead asks the maid if Radiance is alright. The maid, slightly confused, clarifies she must be referring to the field commander of Sector 4. Kura then asks about the other troops. Were there any casualties? The maid assures her that only a few were injured and adds that Radiance even came to visit her. Kura is surprised. Did he really visit? And how long was she unconscious? The maid answers that she was asleep for a day and a half. Fortunately, she continues, the danger had been much lower this time. Kura is relieved to know Radiance is safe, and she quietly acknowledges the success of their operation. Then, she asks about Diello. The maid informs her that Diello also visited her earlier today, but he is busy working at the moment. Kura requests that she tell him she is doing well now. The maid agrees, but says she must still fetch the doctor after all. It was Diello's command. Kura consents, but adds once again, to do tell Diello that she is alright now. As the maid leaves, she mutters, for Azentra. Kura blinks, wondering what is this. The doctor arrives soon after, greeting her with the same words, for Azentra. He examines her, gives a few prescriptions and instructions, and then also departs with the same phrase. Kura begins to notice it more and more. All the knights who visit her, along with the maids, say the same thing for Azentra. There's a strange sense of comradeship in the air. She finally asks Peel what all this means. Is this some kind of shared camaraderie? Everyone seems to be treating her differently now. Peel explains that Kura's actions on the battlefield left a strong impression. The people of Azentra truly appreciated it. Even the native-born Azentra hesitate to throw themselves into battle, but Kura had charged in without second thoughts. They all saw her not just as a participant, but as someone who fought her very first battle and did so for Azentra. Still confused, Kura asks what exactly that means. Peel explains. It was the trial to become a true Azentra. A trial where applicants must use only their own flames, with no weapons. If they fail, their abilities become something twisted and unstable, like a corrupted version of Diello. But if they succeed, they become official members of Azentra. In other words, it's a system of survival, live or die. Kura still cannot fully adapt to the reality of it all, but she now understands the subtle, deep-rooted sense of comradeship shared by the people of Azentra. She doesn't yet know when she will leave this place, but the thought of becoming Azentra gives her a strange feeling. Still, the fact remains she must leave eventually. The real pharaoh will appear soon. She must begin preparing. She calls for Peel and asks her to bring the map of the continent. That night, as she studies the map of the continent, Kura finds herself envisioning a place where one could live an entire life in abundance, free from the fear of survival. That place, she concludes, is the Daisy Forest. Although for now it is a rough land teeming with monsters and wild animals, she knows that in the years to come, a massive waterway will be built along the river that runs near the forest. Real estate, after all, is always about foresight. If she purchases the land now, before development begins, the value will skyrocket. It is, without doubt, a guaranteed jackpot. But the problem remains. Where is she supposed to get the money? As she contemplates this new goal, Diello suddenly opens the door and rushes in. He seems flustered, clearly relieved to see her awake. He tells her that he was really worried when he heard the news and that he came as soon as he could, but the coastal region kept delaying him with urgent matters. She asks him quietly if he feels guilty for not being there when she first woke up. He admits that yes, he is sorry. But she tells him it's alright after all, he must have his hands full too. She reassures him, saying it was her first time using her power, so perhaps her body went into shock. But she's fine now. He hesitates, then says that maybe he should stop her from ever using her power again. But at the same time, he admits that her powers are truly fascinating. If something like this happens again, he isn't sure he'll be able to stop her. He doesn't really know what to do anymore. Kura simply responds that she will help again, without hesitation. After all, aren't they partners in crime? Then Diello hands her a letter from her father, which he brought with him to deliver personally. She opens the letter and reads it. As expected, it is an invitation to meet a formal agreement. The purpose is to confirm whether she truly managed to fade away as planned. It bothers her a little. Even while she was busy thinking about her future, her father remained focused on verifying whether she succeeded in disappearing from his plans. Suddenly, she remembers that Duke Aloge had added a clause in one of their arrangements, an agreement that 50% of the allowance would be given to her from the mine and the farmland. That clause, disguised as a matter of her dignity, might actually serve as the financial foundation she desperately needs. Diello tilts his head, puzzled. What is this all about? He asks, noticing the map on her lap. She explains that she got it from Peel, and that she's planning to live in Daisy Forest after she leaves this place. The mention of her leaving causes a twitch in his expression. She smiles and tells him she can go first to scout the area, but that she still needs to work before she can do anything. She praises him for always working so hard, even while walking, and he watches her closely, thinking silently. Why is it that she wants to live in that particular place? Is it because of the large river? The change might seem small now, but maybe she wants to leave Aloge behind, and eventually face Azentra alone. But again, Diello knows that Kura isn't reckless. He's always thought of her as smart, so why does she see only part of the picture? Kura has already become deeply rooted in Azentra. There's no way they'll let her go easily. Once the real pharaoh arrives, she'll become disposable. Her role will be over. She will be discarded, killed. That was the plan all along. So why is she hesitating now? Is it because she's the only one who cooperates? Because she saved so many lives in Azentra? Because her powers are too valuable? His thoughts trail off, but then, unexpectedly, her soft, bright face comes to his mind. If the arrival of the true pharaoh continues to be delayed, maybe he's fine with how things are now. Maybe things have even become better than before for him. He begins to wonder if Kura is actually good for Azentra. And maybe, just maybe, she could truly become pharaoh. The next day, she bids Diello farewell, believing she'll be safe after all. She's good at pretending. He doesn't need to worry too much. He only says, "All right, then," and watches quietly as she takes her leave. the Duke Aloge greets her, asking how she has been. She greets him back, smiling politely, and replies that she has been enjoying a really good life lately, all thanks to his consideration. He nods and says they should head to the drawing room, mentioning that he has prepared a variety of good desserts. She now wonders what he is thinking of doing, and what he might want to discuss. As they reach the room, the Duke turns to Azentra, Ennis, and the knights, and asks if they could let them speak alone for a while, pointing out that this is a father-daughter meetup. But upon seeing their full expressions, he scoffs and remarks whether Azentra doesn't permit father-daughter bonding or do they think he is about to harm his own daughter. Kura gives a signal, and they all bow to Duke Aloge in acknowledgement and abide by his request. He then takes Kura with him, asking the others to wait outside the mansion until their talk is done. PL, however, is clearly flustered. Inside the room, as he asks how things are going, she tells him that she was asked to keep sharing the bed with Diello. There were already servants inside the room. She explains that the problem is not that Diello is naive. He isn't. He simply thinks that she is taking her time to open up to him. Duke Aloge scoffs, asking if she's even trying. She tells him that she is indeed trying, but since she is the family head and the official fiancé, she simply cannot take his purity like that. She admits that she could force it, but if she does, he won't open up to her emotionally. It will take her more time. Duke Aloge scoffs again, noting that there's a need for physical affection, and she can't even do that. Kura already knew he was trash, but seeing him like this in person, she finds him even more horrible than she had imagined. The Duke gazes at her, and she starts to feel suffocated. The very air around her feels like it's crushing her. He whispers a suggestion to her, one that makes her nearly choke. He wants her to seduce Diello. She says that of course she is trying to do that, but he mocks her, asking what good are efforts if they yield no result. She says things are not progressing fast, and they pause for a moment. He points out that she cannot even seduce someone at her age. She realizes he is not only cold-hearted but vulgar as well. She tells him that this is not how things work. She reminds him that he once told her she shouldn't do such things if her heart is not in it. She believes that forcing a night with him will only make things worse. So instead, she plans to approach him slowly, and regarding that, she also has a plan in mind. She explains that she will have to do something to reach his heart, but in that household, there is no money to spend aside from the allowance that comes under the Duchess's name. She requests him to divert even just a tenth of that allowance to the Duchess. Duke Aloge scoffs again but says that this is actually a good suggestion, so he will divert the portion to her, as she asked. However, the next time she comes, she will need to bring better plans. She tells him that she will. With that, she thinks she won't have to worry about money anymore. She says that now, she will take her leave. She is glad that even though he was threatening her, she was able to slip away. But just as she is about to leave, he asks her to stop. He reminds her that the tattoo engraved on her back in Diello's name needs to be re-engraved after some time. She walks out, saying nothing, and asks PL to go right away. PL asks the coachman to get the carriage started. Inside, she looks at Kura and says she doesn't look well and asks if she is alright. But just at that moment, Kura loses consciousness. And that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment if you want another part, and that concludes the video today. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. If you want to see another part, leave a comment. No, seriously, I'll do it. Just comment what you want.